Right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. I'll just sit here slightly awkwardly, like a lemon, and just. There she is.
I can't see myself, but maybe you can see me. I don't know.
No, currently you are a loading screen.
I'm loading, pending Eve's face. I hope that the internet
Absolutely.
is going to be good enough. Oh no.
Hi, anyway. Hello.
I mean, if you can hear my audio, then I guess that's good enough until my appears.
Yeah, that's a good start for sure.
It's better than nothing.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I can always sort of come out and try joining again and see if it kickstarts it. I will say to everyone, I'm on the top of a mountain, so please bear with.
No problem.
Coming back in again.
If you've just tuned in, there are some technical difficulties. Okay. I'm afraid I'm not particularly entertaining by myself, but if you just bear with us a second, hopefully some stuff, and yeah, we can get to talking about maps and such. Here we go. Let's try this again. Oh, still penned in the old face.
Oh no. I've tried switching to my 4G, so maybe we'll have more luck with that. But anyway, we'll get started without my face, and we'll see if my face appears at some point in the future.
Okay, well, I mean, there's that.
Okay, so for everyone that's joining, like, my name is Eve, and I'm from Eve's Worldbuilding, but I don't think that many of you have seen George's lovely face before, or really anything about George. So, George, do introduce yourself to us.
Yeah, I'm George. I'm the artist, I guess, behind the Reclusive Cartographer Instagram, Facebook, that sort of thing. Yeah, I draw maps, etc. And well, you know,
really awesome. May I just interject?
Well, thank you very much.
I'm just blush.
Sorry, what was that?
I'm going to make you blush on camera.
Well, yeah. But yeah, that's me. Been doing it for sort of about a year now, a little over a year maybe, when I kind of got started, and yeah, love it. Definitely become probably more of an obsession than a hobby.
I can relate to that. You with good, you know, just general intentions to draw maps, and suddenly you're in your pajamas at 4 a.m. just randomly drawing maps. Maybe that's just me.
No, I can't speak necessarily for the 4 a.m., but certainly on many occasions it has been the last thing I've been doing in the evening, and then the first thing that I do when I wake up.
Yeah. Well, that's just dedication. 10 out of 10 for dedication.
Well, I mean, it's more. I think it's probably more, as I say, on the obsession side of things. I've definitely sort of gone to sleep thinking, oh, do you know what? That would be a good idea. That whatever map I was drawing, like, that would be a good idea to change that. Maybe we could do this and do that, and then I just really struggled to get to sleep after that.
Well,
because I'm too busy planning all this other stuff in my head.
You've been doing it for a year, but you've created this massive following. You're nearly at 14K, so a big round of applause for that.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly kind of like in many ways a bit of an Instagram novice. I've been meaning to do it for a while, but I sort of always held off. But then when I started doing the map stuff, I thought, well, maybe people will be more interested in the map stuff than my personal life. And
well, everyone wants to see like everyone's curious. I was curious. So I was like, hey, hey George, hey.
Well,
And I think it's just as interesting to get to know people that are behind the scenes as it is to see people's maps, because yeah, maybe they come for the art and the talent, but they stay for your quirks and your personality, I think. But that's how I like to think about my account, at least.
Sure.
And obviously I followed you for a while now, so I can say for someone that was following you, I was like, oh, I wonder what, well, I didn't know that you were George, but I was like, I wonder what he's like.
Well, I mean, this is it, really.
Here I am.
This is me. Yeah, here I am. Yeah, I'm not really sure what else there is,
Well,
other than just.
I've got plenty of questions prepared for you, so don't worry.
Well, yes. I mean, feel free to fire away.
Ready to be grilled. I think just before questioning, I will just come out and try and come in, and so people can see my face. I mean, just so it's like a little bit more interactive with my face. But
absolutely. As much as I do like interacting with a loading widget thing there.
It's all a conspiracy. I'm actually a computer program.
Well, I had my suspicions, I'll be honest with you.
I'm in the Matrix. Don't tell anyone. Okay, right, 1 second.
Okay, no problem. Again, back to trying to hold my own by myself here. No, thank you for everyone that's joining, as I say, and thank you to some of the nice messages I'm getting in there as well. Just wait 2 seconds. I feel like I should show you a map or something while we wait. Here we go. Third time's the charm, hopefully.
Face.
Maybe.
Oh, where is my face? Oh no, I think this is not hopeful.
Ah, that's a shame. Well, I mean, if you do insist on living up a mountain.
I know, it's so rude.
That is so like, here I am at sea level, like an idiot.
Yes, you peasants down on the floor. I mean, I'm just trying to think. Maybe I could try on another device, darling. One of my many screens.
No, of course.
We'll see what happens if I try on my iPad. Sorry for everyone watching. This was supposed to be more smooth and delightful, but technology likes to throw a spanner in the works. George can do some like interactive dance while we're waiting. No, I'm joking. You don't have to do that.
Oh, I mean, I was wearing my dance shoes, but no, okay, indeed.
Well, I'm going to try one more time, and if not, we'll just have to go faceless for this occasion.
No problem. No problem. While that happens, I can entertain you all with the current map that I'm drawing. Ooh, there you go. A bit of that. Yeah, this is my map, Port Gladhurst, that I made for my own homebrew campaign that started yesterday. First session went all right, luckily. Obviously, the campaign probably won't survive the contact with the players, but the session one almost did. But there were definitely a few things thrown out there that were a bit concerning. But see how that one goes. Right. Fourth time. I hear fourth time is the charm, so she's going to try and enter the live again. That's fine. There you go.
You can see my face.
There you go. She's real.
It's a shocker. I will say that I wasn't anticipating using my iPad, so the battery level was quite low. So if I disappear, we'll have to go back to me being a face, just a faceless nothing.
Okay.
But
okay.
Here is proof that I am a real person.
Good. That's I think that was question one. Is Eve real?
Is Eve real? Well, here I am, folks. Now I'm trying to multitask. Never a good thing for me. Tra-cha-la-la. Okay. Composed. I've got my fan directly on me because it is some spicy weather we're having here in Spain. Very hot indeed. It's like that meme where like everything's on fire. I'm like, it's fine.
Well, in London, I can only say that it is muggy, and you know, I have closed all of the curtains and hiding away from it all.
I do not miss that part of England. I mean, I do love parts of England, but the clamminess is definitely not one of them.
No, indeed. But let's get stuck into these questions, shall we?
Let's get to it. So I thought, tell us about your mapping story. How did you come to draw maps, and why?
Well, so I've been DMing for only a few years, maybe 3 years, I think. Me and my group of my friends, we never sort of did it when we were younger. So I think we were just hanging out together, and then super cool people that we were. I think we just sort of said, you know what, we've never tried like Dungeons and Dragons, and I think we sort of really enjoy this sort of thing. So we ended up doing it, and we did the sort of the Mines of Fandelver, whatever it is, I forget now. And we ran that campaign. I DM'd for it. Sort of really enjoyed it. So then we sort of moved into homebrew stuff. So I created this little world. And I drew a very rough, very bad map of it. And then I think through a few like different iterations of trying to make that map look better, I just started to sort of really enjoy it. And then I was going on holiday with my girlfriend, going on holiday to Portugal for a couple of weeks. And it was one of those sort of, you know, sit by a pool for 10 days or whatever shenanigans, and I'm not very good at doing nothing. I can't sit there and sunbathe. Yeah. I'm the person in the shade.
I'm legit too. I can relate.
Yeah, I can't do it. So I just thought. So I bought a nice pad of paper and some pencils and fine liners and stuff. And I just thought I will again be super cool and stand by a pool or sit by a pool and draw my homebrew world. So yeah, I did that, and then that was the first thing I like shared online. So I just put it around Facebook and stuff. Yeah, indeed. And people started commenting and saying, you know, this looks great, this looks terrible, you should stop doing it. You know, and then we just sort of went from there. Yes, indeed. Yeah, then it just became a bit of an obsession of mine, and I guess it's just been a continuous kind of progression and sort of coming up with a style.
Yeah, that's awesome. It kind of like sort of serendipity led you to draw some maps, which is, I think that's I think it's like a fun way to like stumble upon something and then realize actually it's really fun and I want to do more of this.
Yeah, I sort of wonder what I did with my time before I did this, because like this takes up so much of my time. I'm like, yeah, what else was I doing? Yeah.
Move your camera up a little bit. Because, I mean, you have a lovely nose, but I can kind of just see your nose.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
Oh, that's really cool. And, like, how did you started off with, like, pen and paper, obviously, but now your maps are more digital, yes? Do you still
so,
pen and paper maps?
I don't do pen and paper really anymore, only because, so I originally went over to digital, I think when I was doing my sort of first series of commissions, when I was commissioned to work on the Spectacular Settlements module for Nord Games, and I did all that hand-drawn, but then I would always scan in the line art afterwards to colour it in Photoshop, whatever, and then I just think I found that because I never really I tried drawing with Photoshop a few times, and the problem I had was, so I have all like the tablets and stuff and the drawing tablets and what have you, and I never really enjoyed them because I didn't like the idea of being anchored to a computer every time I wanted to draw anything. It just feels like a lot of stuff to have around, so it's why I was reluctant to go digital. But then I decided to buy an iPad, and I heard good things about Procreate, and I tried it.
People who
I'm not very technical. The big one. I don't know. I don't know which one that is. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The iPad Pro. So the big. Yeah. Absolutely. Luckily, I had the luxury of buying it through my limited company, so it was a little bit less money. But I just see a question there. Have I ever used a map making program like OneDrive and Incarnate? I actually haven't used those particular programs. Though I know them to be good. Creating assets for Incarnate and WonderDraft before now. And yes, I have posted on 9gag many times. I started posting on 9gag initially because that was a social media platform that I used. I never used Instagram or anything like that before. The 9gag community, I think, was one of the reasons why I got quite a big Instagram following, particularly because those people migrated over there. Sorry, what was the original question?
About using digital maps. We can always come back and do the questions in the comments afterwards.
Sorry. Okay. Yeah. I don't know how this stuff. I don't know how this stuff.
And then we can answer them more fully. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. So rather than doing so now I'm just completely digital. Do it all on Procreate because the line art, the drawing, the Apple Pencil is just amazing. Like you may as well be writing like drawing on paper.
Do you use one of the screen protectors?
I do use one of the screen protectors, though not the paper texture one. I keep meaning to get that, but it was so fiddly getting the screen protector on initially. I don't want to take it off and then get a new one. I have actually unfortunately cracked the screen slightly in the corner of my iPad, which is utterly tragic. You can only notice though when I've actually got it switched off. So when I get the screen replaced, I'll probably go for the paper texture, though I haven't found a problem with just using the normal one. I know a lot of people say it's a bit slippery, but I think it's fine.
Well, I just ordered one of the paper-like ones because I bought this iPad ages ago with the intention of like being more digital, and it just hasn't happened, and I don't really know why. I think I'm one of these people that I just tried drawing on the iPad, and I was like, oh, it's a different experience, and I'm gonna have to actually invest quite a lot of time to get better at it. And at the moment, I just haven't found that time, and it's a lot easier. And I do really love doing pen and paper ones, but I think ones. So hopefully,
I think like anything else, it just takes getting used to. That's all. Like, I think I could never get used to because I as I say, I bought the tablets and bought even like the drawing on tablets that are also monitors. I could just never get used to it. I could never get used to like doing it at that angle. I know a lot of people really like them, but I don't necessarily.
How do you feel like about digital versus traditional mapping? Do you prefer being digital? Do you miss elements of the traditional mapping?
I don't think so. I think my style, I try and keep an element of sort of hand drawn. I try and keep that in there because I prefer it that way. I think
quite like loose and pencily.
I don't worry too much about being like super neat. Obviously, you want it to. There's a balance there. Like there's a balance between trying to make it convey exactly what you want and also just not look really. I think if it's too neat, it just looks a bit sterile. But I mean, that's just my personal opinion. I know a lot of people prefer like accuracy, and that's great. But as I say, I just prefer that kind of loose stuff. So I try and keep the things that I did from hand draw, because I think my fear was that when I went to digital, I would be too much of a perfectionist. So my fear was that if you give me the ability to erase large portions of my map, and then start again, I would never finish anything. And admittedly, when I first started doing it, there was a lot of that, and I would start, I would start so many things. I probably started my homebrew world about 8 different times, trying to draw it, and then being like, oh no, I hate it, and then starting again. But now I basically just, I just make do. I just, any mistake that I make is a sort of a happy accident.
Sorry, I'm just slightly on the move because I had my chair set up for the other tripod.
No, that's okay.
Trying to hold
that's okay.
the tripod. and I have very weak
I'm
hands.
I'm impressed that you've got a tripod. I've just propped my phone up against some candle holders.
It's because I'm a hashtag professional, George.
Absolutely, absolutely. Whereas I am a hashtag amateur.
Right, there we go. Hopefully this will stay. Now I've got a very professional.
Sweet.
I'm propping it up on my pen pot, but we do have a nice fire in the background, so.
I feel like that's adding to the fact that it's a problem that you're really warm. I mean, I appreciate it's not a real fire, but subconsciously, I feel like that's a mixed message.
I'm all about the mixed messages.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Not a critique, just an observation.
And so, with your digital maps, do you use any like specific brushes or like pencils and stuff like that? Have you bought any packs? Do you use them, the preset ones? I'm assuming you use
I have. So I just used the standard brushes that kind of shipped with Procreate, and then I kind of tweaked them in a way that I preferred. Like, I don't pretend to be an expert on brushes. There are some people out there that can do some amazing things. I honestly can't. It's a learning process for me, but yeah. So I tweaked those brushes a little bit. So I just used the technical pen for all my line art, and then just one of the wash brushes for sort of painting, shading, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so nothing too fancy. I created quite a few stamp brushes for myself. So just drawing like a barrel or a table or something, and then having that as a stamp brush that I can then just very quickly just drop it in. It is handy. I try not to overuse it though, because again, I feel like I've often shied away from creating specific assets.
Of each map having like just that slightly. Obviously, it's still in your style because you created that stamp, but it's something about drawing it every time. They're going to come out different every time.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think, and often that can bring sort of like a bit of character to something. But if it's like a background object, as I say, like barrels, boxes, that sort of thing, and the more important thing is to have, it's just to be able to do that quickly. Otherwise, it's just bloody forever. I would just do that, and it also it stops me from falling into automatic, because sometimes if you're drawing a box or whatever, you're drawing something, and then they'll all look exactly the same. But if you have sort of 5 different variants of it, you can just be like, right, I'll pop those down, and then I'll pop the next lot down, and then there's a bit more variation. But yeah, so I try not to use it too much, but I do have a lot of sort of files on my iPad of like cheat sheets that I've got. So as in like 20 different styles of houses that I've drawn, not necessarily so that I could use them as stamps, though I have tried that before, though it seemed to be more trouble than it was worth. But at least I can go back to that reference document and just be like, oh, okay, I haven't used this style of house in a while.
So how did you create those documents? Did you like draw them first on the iPad and then like save them, and then, or did you draw them by hand and then just take pictures of them, or? No,
so I would have drawn them on. So originally I drew them by hand and then put them into Photoshop. But now that I do it all on the iPad, it's basically just all on the iPad there, and then I can just jump into it whenever I need to. I find creating stamp brushes easier to do in Photoshop than in Procreate. Procreate's a bit more fiddly, but it does work. And though you have to devote some time to it, trying to get it all set up, it does save you time in the end.
Yeah. And with your like colouring, like I love the colouring on your maps, like the variations that you do, and I just really like the style of it. How did you learn to do it like that? And how do you actually physically do it in Procreate? It's like kind of a technical question. This is more like my curiosity about it.
Yeah, I mean, I should definitely do a walkthrough at some point about how it happens. But in simple terms. In simple terms, I basically I put a color layer down and then mask it all off. Sorry, this is going to get technical. Mask it all off so that you can't see any of it. And then I just paint in using the mask layer. Because when you do it like that, if you need to change the color later on, it's much easier to do that. Because if you've drawn everything in masks, you can then change that color layer. So that's the workflow I set up so that I could have different color variations of my maps very quickly. So like the map that I'm working on at the moment, in fact, I haven't got the different variations, unfortunately, because I was doing that on my main machine. But like, so this current map that I'm working on at the moment, can't see it that well. But so you can see that it's all sort of like green. So it's kind of, thank you. So nice greens and blues and stuff like that. But if I wanted to change that to a night map, I could just, you know, I just create more blues and more, you know, take out more of the greens. Or if I wanted to turn it wintry, I could make those green. Sorry? Oh, I can probably, actually, I can show you how it's set up. So look, here you go, look. So here, I'm not sure how well you're going to be able to see this. But so you can see there that I've got the so that's the layer map there. You can't read it for love nor money, but you can see that there are solid block layers, and then there are masked layers on top of them that basically just paint in those specific areas. Yeah, as I say, it's a versatility thing. It's something that I learned over a period of time to try and make my workflow as efficient as possible, I think was the main reason.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that saves you a lot of time. Like trying to colour every map every time in every variation would take you forever.
Well, yeah. So there are some, you know, there were some lovely there's some lovely things that I could do. I've seen people that have done that colour all on one layer, and it can look absolutely lovely because then they interact really nicely. It's a bit more kind of traditional. And that looks great. I mean, I think one of the people I really like is the Fantastic Maps. I don't know if you know that one. So he did an amazing tutorial about colouring and shading and everything else like that. And I learned a lot from it when I was first starting out, because you can even he's got a downloadable Photoshop file, so you can sort of take it apart and analyse how he sort of achieved those certain things. And that's how I used to colour my maps. I don't colour them like that anymore, but I've taken quite a lot of those sort of those pointers and then incorporated them into my own. Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I didn't know how to do any of this. Yeah, I didn't know how to do any of this 6 months ago, 8 months ago. Well, no, but I just now I know a little bit more how to do it. But it is a learning process.
Tell me.
What is my favourite colour? Well, it's blue. It's blue is definitely my favourite colour.
You can't just say blue because that could be so many.
Well, the kind of blue that I use for the ocean in my things, like that kind of blue. Like that's a nice blue. Ah, it's really shiny. No, no, but like a teal kind of blue. Not like royal blue. Ugh,
That's
no.
an acceptable answer.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, everyone has a favourite colour, I think. Like, I've had people say to me that they don't have a favourite colour, and I'm like, I'm very suspicious of that. I'm very suspicious.
There are certainly colours you like more than others. Yeah.
I just can't relate to it. Sorry.
You just have to then force them to paint a room brown. If they have no favourite colour, it shouldn't matter.
Beige.
Yeah.
Yeah, one time, this is completely not related to maps. I was in Thailand with my friend, and we were in a supermarket. And we saw this hair dye that was a Thai brand, but they'd obviously translated it to English. And the hair colour was mysterious beige.
Oh.
And I was like,
I would have. I think I would have. I think I would have absolutely. Oh, I think I would have. I think I would have had to. If I'd have seen that.
I think if I ever, like, I don't know, write a novel or, I don't know, become a rap star or a porn star, I'm just going to call myself Mysterious Beige. It's just a hilarious name.
That's awkward because I was thinking about doing a rebrand for my map stuff, and it was going to be that. So you've taken that now, so thanks for that.
Sorry. So you mentioned your about the maps that you like from other people. Who are your favourite accounts? Do you, or like your favourite styles of maps, or any famous maps that you like?
Well, in terms of like other artists that I like, and there are some absolutely fantastic ones on Instagram, and I think there's a difference between sort of, well, so some people are I really like, because I love their styles and I think they're great, and it's sort of what I aspire that my style should be, or like, well, not the same, but like, you know what I mean, like some things that I'd love to. In terms of people that I think have similar styles, or at least ones that are on the same vein as mine, would be, I mean, Misty B is amazing. The stuff that she does is just incredible. Like the detail and the sort of the traditional aspect of the maps that she sort of brings in, like the scroll work and stuff, and it's all like the added features, the borders that she does, and obviously the map itself. But as in yeah, I just think that those are absolutely fantastic. I'm a big fan of like Daniel's maps. I think that his maps are absolutely great. His is sort of like a different, sort of more digital style, maybe. But I think that the kingdom maps and stuff that he does are absolutely fantastic. Owen's maps, I think, are good, are really nice too. Very sort of clean. I probably should have prepared more of a list of people. There's loads of other people. There's loads of other people. Yeah, there's loads of other people that I think their maps are absolutely incredible. Dimension Door is another one. He's actually only just appeared on Instagram for what I can see. But the stuff that he's putting out is absolutely fantastic. I would very much encourage people to go and check that out, because he does some really good tutorials as well. And of course, you, Eve, you do some lovely maps as well.
Me too. No. I feel like I'm not on the same level as those other people, but I make up for it by being like chatty.
Well, I think at the end of the day, like, because it's such a subjective thing, Matt. Yeah. So people like certain things about different things. So I remember, like, you know, when some people would put me in a, like when I first started out, people would put me in the same list as like these other amazing people, and I was just like, oh my god, what? But obviously it's what they personally like, and I think that's important.
Yeah.
You know,
I think the beauty of maps as well is that there's so much diversity in the styles, and it's so easy to make your own like mark if you give it enough time, and if you draw enough maps, you can really develop an interesting style. And obviously, just like everything with humans, like people like different. Yeah, it's interesting just seeing how many people are out there, and that, you know, the community is growing every day. There's more people joining every day, so, and you know, it's so nice to be able to like be inspired by different tidbits. Like you'll scroll through and you'll see, like, I don't know, 5 different pictures and they're all completely different. I think it was Dominique Strange. I can't remember the name. Dominique 44 or Domino 44.
Yeah. No, I know exactly who you mean.
In your style challenge, which I thought was a really good idea, and I'm intending to draw that map at some point. I just haven't got around to it, but it was looking at some of the results of people who attempted that challenge was really cool, because it's like it was the same map, but they were all so different.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, I agree.
And what is your favourite map that you've ever done?
Oh,
3 if you can't decide one.
that's a tricky one.
Not necessarily favourite, but like you enjoyed the process, or there was something that like made it stick out to you as like a kind of special map. I
mean, I really enjoyed the recent homebrew redraw that I made. Not necessarily because of the content of the map itself, because the world is a bit, you know, having sort of, it's the first world I've ever built. So in terms of the design, maybe not the best, but like I just enjoyed that process so much, because it felt like a lot of disparate elements of my world style of world maps, regional maps, or whatever, kind of came together in that map. And I'd never really been a fan of, I always felt that my town maps had kind of got to a level where they were pretty good, and then it was just it was a case of learning how to plan cities better, or plan towns better, or make them look different, or make them have like a fun sort of aspect to them. Like more the game side of it, maybe, rather than the design.
Yes, definitely.
Whereas the world map stuff, I'd done obviously world maps before, but it never quite clicked in. Like I've probably gone through about 6 or 7 different styles of how I draw mountains, you know, and like all this sort of stuff. But it felt that it kind of clicked with that one. I still look at it and I see things that I would want to change, but I promised myself that I wouldn't start again. Once I started, I was just like, you just need to finish this.
It's a good correct promise to make to
and
yourself.
yeah,
You don't make that like, realization before you start it.
Yeah.
It's very easy to like, oh, damn it, I made a mistake. I'm just gonna start.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of like city maps and stuff, I don't know. I feel like the unfortunate thing is that my favorite map is always the last one that I've done, and I don't know what that says about me, but it's just like
something new, isn't it? And
yeah.
I think when you've just finished a map, you've got that sort of like almost like a relationship with it because you've spent a lot of time with it. You've spent a lot of time thinking about it.
Yeah, so absolutely. Though I do think that I think the map that I did, the city map I did of Orthus, which is one of the first Patreon maps I did, I don't expect anyone to know what that is off the top of their heads, as in Orthus, not Patreon. I don't expect anyone to know what that looks like. Yeah, and know what that is off the top of their head. But that was a nice. I really liked how that one came out in the end.
And so you just mentioned your Patreon. We can do like a little plug. Just tell us like about your Patreon. If people were to join your Patreon, what would they expect to have? Like, what's your experience with Patreon? Do you like it?
So I really enjoy Patreon because of the community that we've managed to sort of build over there. So it's something I started back in February, and it's grown sort of far more than I thought it would. So I sort of, and also I sort of wanted to start small, like, you know, so I promised to create 4 premium maps every month, and then some extra sort of free stuff going along. So I went for the pay per creation model. So yeah, so 4 charged posts per month. And I didn't want to overpromise because I didn't want to get it wrong. But now it's actually been a case of me needing to calm down a little bit because, you know, I'm sort of like I'm sending up. Well, you know, I'm just so excited about it because I've got a community there that has so many wonderful ideas, and I'm just like, yes, my God, let's do that. And then, you know, and then I've done all 4 of my charged posts, and I can't do any more for like, so I've got to wait. So yeah, so I get really, you know, excited about that, and we've just started the Patreon lottery, which is which went really well last month, where basically out of the 250 odd patrons we've got, they pitch their ideas, and then the dice decides which one of those ideas gets taken up. So the recent map that I did of the Lich Dungeon, that was a suggestion from one of my excellent patrons, Michael Young. He suggested that, so I just went ahead and made it. Yeah, they seem pretty happy with it, so that's good. But yeah, so that's sort of what they can expect, really. So I try and do 1 regional, 1 town, 1 dungeon, 1 battle map every month for the premium ones, and then lots of little things like, you know, vehicle maps and
What's your favourite kind of map to do? World maps, city maps, dungeon maps?
Probably city maps, I think, just because I'm an absolute devil for detail. And I always think that there's so much detail that you can put into a town map. And I think I'm also a bit of a fan of trying to make my towns look alive. So as in, you know, just like carts and boats and whatever, and like you can see like little paths in the roads where people have kind of been walking, whatever. So I'm quite a fan of doing that. Whereas I feel like in a dungeon, you can't do that so much because you need to leave the playing space kind of clear for players, and, you know, because otherwise you'll just get players constantly going, oh, I'm sorry, is that difficult terrain? Because I can see there's a whatever in the way. I prefer to allow people to fill the dungeons with their own stuff rather than paint it into I don't know if anyone else has experienced this, but like running dungeons when the artist has obviously drawn something that, and you know,
to be there, we have to work it in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you know, if you get a certain type of player that will just be like, I want to search that box, the one to the left, that one.
Specific box.
Yeah, exactly.
That box.
And it just it slows things down sometimes. So I prefer to allow yeah, I prefer to allow the DMs to fill the space. Not saying that I don't put stuff in there, because I do, but
no, I really like your city maps. I think probably of all the maps, your city maps are my favourite too. So
yeah, well, I think it's the one that I probably spent the most time doing. I'm actually fairly new to dungeon maps in terms of the whole year or so that I've been doing this. I only properly started doing dungeon maps quite recently, and I think that was a reaction to setting up things like Patreon, because I wanted to make sure that
I think there's a really huge demand for them. Maybe
yeah, absolutely,
other kinds of maps.
Yeah, no, I think so, because at the end of the day, your party could spend a whole campaign in one city, but unless you are
not cities and dragons.
Well, indeed. But you know, a few sessions in a dungeon, or again, if you're like anything like my groups, you might spend a lot more than several sessions in one dungeon. We actually just went through the Tomb of Annihilation with one of my lot, and yeah, that was a slog. That was a slog.
Hard slog.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
And okay, so a heated question for some people: realism versus fantasy. George, what are your opinions on the splitting of rivers?
My opinion is going to be a classically hedged response, which is that the first things first is that obviously whatever, you know, it's entirely up to the person that's doing it in terms of what they prefer. But I prefer realism, I think. I prefer that the maps that I create, or the maps that I see, are at least grounded in realism. Because in my view, a fantasy world is one that is very much like our own, but different in some specific way, or like different in some core way. So maybe that means that you can think about, it's an interesting kind of thought exercise. Because I always try and ground my maps in sort of medieval fantasy, like classic fantasy of the real world, like a Eurocentric kind of whatever. Not because I just want to do Eurocentric stuff, but just because it's easier. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. An interesting thought thing is to think about, okay, so if this is a world with magic, how does that change the way people live their lives? How does that change the way they build stuff and the way they do things? And I think you can go too far in that direction, and it just becomes to action. So I remember seeing a video about, I think it was by the chap that does, I can't remember his name, but he's the guy that does How to Be a Great GM, the YouTube channel. I don't know if you've seen it. I'm a big fan of his work. Yeah, I'm a great fan of his work. I think they do some really good stuff, some great pointers. And I think he was explaining about how castles should actually work in a world where a mage could just obliterate huge portions of a stone wall without even breaking a sweat. And it sort of came to the point where, yeah, and it sort of came to the point where it's just like, well, the castle then needs to be underground, and it needs to be like all this sort of stuff. And I'm just like, okay, you know, fine. But if I presented that to my players, I think they would probably think, this is a dungeon. This is clearly a dungeon. This is a pit. You want us to go into a pit, which is fine. But to be fair, in my world anyway, my homebrew world that I take a lot of my inspiration from, magic isn't such a big part of it anyway. It's a bit rarer. You know, so whenever my players turn up at a small village and start throwing spells around, people are more in awe and terror than, you know,
like, oh yeah,
whatever.
Doing magic tricks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I think more. Yeah.
Quite an overpowering thing otherwise.
Yeah, and I think I would always prefer my maps to be versatile rather than specific, because, you know, I think if you start going into territory where you're just like, well, this building is upside down because I don't care, like, because the magic of the thing, the mage lives in an upside down house. Just like, okay, but is everyone going to get that? I don't know. Like,
and so obviously, like, the players that you DM for or GM for know that you draw these maps, but do other people in your life know that you draw maps? How has that been for you? Like, have they been generally like interested, confused?
I don't tend to drop it into polite conversation. I don't tend to just sort of go, by the way, I'm a cartographer, just, you know, whatever. Yeah, I don't tend to drop it in, but there, yeah, I think most people in my life know, because I started off just posting it to my personal Facebook thing. And I think people know that I do this kind of stuff. Like, they know that I DM and I play all this, you know. I've not been not that when somebody comes up to me or someone says in conversation, you know, oh, George plays Dungeons and Dragons and draws maps and stuff. Not that for a moment I'm not sort of just like, oh, did you have to mention that to this person? But then very quickly I'm just like, well, no, actually, it's a passion. It's enjoyable. Like, I don't see it.
Interesting. Like,
yeah.
Certainly before I started drawing maps, I didn't really know that it was like a big thing. I didn't realise there was this whole community about it. And I think people are actually like kind of intrigued by it sometimes, because it's like, well, it's a bit weird, a bit on the edge, but it's actually kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, most people have been sort of very supportive, and you know, they've seen my Instagram, they've seen my Facebook stuff, and they're, you know, they're just like, wow, you know, that actually looks quite interesting. But whether I then take that as an opportunity to have an incredibly in-depth conversation about Dungeons and Dragons and why my maps are the way that they are, and then talk their ear off for an hour and a half, really depends on the person.
Yeah. Well, I think now that, like, I feel like Dungeons and Dragons is having this like really big revival. I mean, I don't think it ever really went away, but I think it's certainly becoming like a lot more popular in popular culture, and like people who wouldn't even necessarily class themselves as like nerdy or geeky in any way are also like getting involved in it. So I think it's starting to be like
absolutely. I agree with you. Yeah,
like that.
Yeah, I think we have Stranger Things to thank for that, and everything. I mean, I had my own, as I say, when I started playing Dungeons and Dragons a few years ago, I had my own sort of nerd renaissance when I'd kind of sort of thought, you know, oh, let's try Dungeons and Dragons. I also had a couple of friends that were just like, hey, do you guys want to try Warhammer? I haven't played Warhammer since I was a kid, so we started doing that again. Well, I say started doing that. Got all the bits.
Expensive.
It is, but as an adult, I can now actually buy stuff. As a child, I could not. You know, then I started like assembling all the bits and painting and stuff, and then we never actually got around to playing a game because it's impossible to.
Exactly. So you went on your own side quest to Warhammer.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. What can I say?
There's nothing wrong with that. I think there's always time for a side quest. But
absolutely.
Anyway.
And now, I mean, now I had drawers full of miniatures that I don't use, and I can't even utilize them in my own D&D games because they're 40k. So they're all, you know, I'm not just going to slap a space marine down in the middle of a dungeon.
Maybe you should do more of the like other miniatures. There's loads of miniature painters that are doing like, I don't know, more like Lord of the Ringsy stuff. As well.
Yeah.
So you can always get some of them, I guess. I'm curious about doing painting with miniatures, but I'm also like scared that everything's just going to be covered in paint. Like, tiny people everywhere.
Oh no, that's absolutely what happens.
Like, that's
yeah.
I have to come to it.
Yeah. Oh, you wait until you've got to go into the shop and actually try and buy the different shades of paint, the ridiculous names they've got for that. I'm sure Mysterious Beige is probably in there somewhere.
Mysterious Beige. I'm gonna pitch it.
No, I think you should. I think the world would be a poorer place if you didn't.
Eve just bringing the tone down since. Okay, so we've got like 10 minutes left. So, any big projects or like interesting things that you want to do in the future? Like, how do you see the Reclusive Cartographer moving on in the future?
Well, I think the more stuff like the more things like Patreon and stuff kind of like continue to grow, and the more that community grows, I would like to gear more of what I'm doing to what they want, really. So more the more kind of input, I'm always sort of asking them for more and more input, ways to improve and what they like. I think currently on the table is to start like a World Anvil thing. I don't know if you know about World Anvil, but where we could just create, where we could create a map, and then we could all start world building together based off of one regional world map, and then build it up from there. So just devoting more time to that and everything. And yeah, I guess just improving the style, trying to get to more kind of. I'd love to do more collaborative work, particularly with people that are like very good like writers and stuff like that. So people that are more into the writing and the gaming, the game side of it, because that's something that I'm not particularly good at. Like I try and do. So with all my Patreon maps, or most of them anyway, I release like a little kind of foreword for the map that just trying to get the creative juices flowing. So like plot hooks, various other things. But outside of that, I don't do a huge amount of writing. I don't even do that much writing for my games. I do try and make it up largely on the spot. To mixed amounts of success, I would argue. But yeah, trying to do sort of more collaborations with people that are good at those specific things, and yeah, I guess just bigger and better projects. If Wizards of the Coast would give me a call, I get involved with them, or whatever.
I hope they'll see this live video and they'll be like, just gonna...
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm just waiting for that call right now.
I should have asked you this question at the beginning, but I forgot. Why did you choose the name The Reclusive Cartographer? Because having spent an hour with you, you don't really seem that reclusive.
I would say that it is that it was a bit of a puzzling choice, and particularly for people that know me, they were just sort of like, well, what? I think my auntie Yell messaged me over Facebook, like all caps, just like, you're the least reclusive person I know. And I was like, yeah, well, fine. No, so I had sort of originally got this idea that I was going to try and create the maps from the perspective of this character that I was going to create, like basically this archivist guy, this cartographer. Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, that wasn't going to be his name, but yes. This guy that he really wants to be an adventurer, but for some reason he's stuck working in an archive, working in a library. So he would kind of write little annotations about these maps from that kind of perspective. So this kind of frustrated adventurer perspective. So he was going to be, like this reclusive individual. I started toying with it, and I guess with some of my forewords, like sometimes I kind of sign them off as from so-and-so archivist, from whatever, but unfortunately it never managed to quite develop it. But it is something that I'd be quite keen to do, but and I think I probably will, but the name just stuck. And then at that point I'd already released a few maps and was getting a bit of a following, and I didn't want to change the name. Yeah, absolutely, it was too late by then. To kind of stop that from going. So I just stuck with it, and I've had a little recent rebrand. So I'm in it now. This is what it's going to be forever.
No, I think you could feasibly change your name if you wanted to. I think it's just what people get used to, and whether you really felt like it would actually be useful to do that. But I think it's quite, like, not necessarily a catchy name, but it's certainly like a memorable name. Like if you say, "Oh, the Reclusive Cartographer," you think,
"Oh no, it's the least catchy name ever, and it's also the least optimized for stuff like social media, because I can't get my whole name into like which is whatever. But I don't pretend to be a social media genius, what can you do? I'll focus on the map stuff. And
I think the maps is what we all came for. So
well, yeah.
You're all right. And my final question for you is that for the people that are watching, like, if someone hasn't started a map yet, they're just beginning their brave adventure into the cartography world, like what would you say to them? Like, what are your best tips for the drawing? Like, where would you say to look for inspiration, communities and stuff they could join?
I would say that Instagram and Pinterest are the best places for inspiration. There are some amazing things on Pinterest, particularly considering I think that the difference with Pinterest is that you don't necessarily have to follow loads of people in order to find it. It's maybe a bit easier to find. And also sort of like you might see a map. Sorry?
I do really love Pinterest, but I get a bit confused by it because it's just,
okay, yeah.
And I'm on websites and I'm like, whoa.
Oh yeah, no, it does. It takes a second to get used to, but it's not too bad. But yeah, so I think because then you'll find like fantasy maps, but then you'll also find like these amazing like fantasy scenes that people have drawn, which obviously aren't maps, but like a really good inspiration and things like that. So I'd suggest those for inspiration. There are some great Facebook groups. Just type fantasy maps into Facebook, you'll come up with a few. I'm probably in 4 or 5 myself. With some great communities that are always willing to give feedback. And stuff like that, and for the vast majority, it's well-intentioned criticism. Right. So if anyone's sort of afraid of wanting to of posting stuff in case they think people are going to be negative about it, I find Instagram to be probably. Sorry.
People are so positive in that.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, I think for the most part they are, and particularly on sort of Instagram and stuff, everyone's very positive. So I'd suggest that. In terms of if you're just starting out and you want to know where to start, I mean, it sounds, that sounds completely unhelpful, but just kind of like, just start at the beginning, just draw it. Like, yeah, if you're sitting there if you sit down with a pen and pencil or whatever, paper and pencil, and you spend 30 minutes just drawing sort of vague shapes, and then it starts to kind of come into something, great, draw it, ask people what they think, see where you can improve, and then just go from there. Like, looking back at my stuff that I started with, it looks absolutely nothing like the stuff that I do now, even remotely, in terms of style or quality or anything. So there's no reason not to give it a go. Would be my thoughts. Particularly if you enjoy doing it. It often helps if you're doing it for with a specific goal in mind. Like if you have a game that you need to play, like a D&D game or something, and you want to draw a dungeon for it, then go for it.
Go for it. I'm going to get a t-shirt. George Mason says go for it.
Yeah, I dare say.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you for
no problem.
having me and my face on your channel for this live. Like, it's been really great to talk to you, and hopefully the people that have been watching will get some useful insights about the mysterious George, mysterious George.
Well, it's out there now. This is who I am now. So there you go.
I've revealed your face to the internet. You can't take it back now. So
no, indeed.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I'm glad that the internet has lasted for this long. I'm genuinely quite surprised.
All right. Well, yeah. I mean, I think we're in the last 2 minutes now, so we should probably, rather than getting cut off. Though I do just want to say, because I had a couple of people ask questions in the comments and also from earlier. So quick fire. So what have we got here? Comments. The ones that I received earlier. I'm sorry if I don't get to yours, but how long I spend on a map is normally between 8 hours, maybe 12, depending on what it is. Town map's probably 8 hours. Regional map might be more closer to 12. Depends whether I'm colouring it, shading it. It also depends whether I'm planning it out as well, or whether it's a commission and they've already got an idea. Yeah, so yes, I was on 9gag. I haven't used no, I don't speak Russian.
It's a shame. Maybe that can be a big project, learning Russian.
Yeah, I'll learn Russian. Yeah, I think those are the main ones. Sorry, yeah, there's probably a couple of others that I've missed out on.
Would you advise to use other platforms than Instagram for building a following? That's quite a good question, actually.
Yeah, Facebook's a good one. I haven't tried things like DeviantArt and stuff like that. I think that's supposed to be quite good. The photography workshop as well, I think is quite good. But yeah, I would say Facebook and Instagram are my main ones. And Twitter, but I'm only very recently on Twitter. We've only got 15 seconds left, so we're going to have to say goodbye. But thank you everyone for watching.
Like, cut us off or anything. It's It's just,
Oh, does it not?
it's a nice rounded hour.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone, anyway. And thank you to Eve.